Good evening, Opener Sorcery family. It's Devi, and today we're going to be covering potions and Potioncraft. And I know this one's going to sound more Hollywood than anything, but it's kind of necessary. So, with potions, with Potioncraft, I'm going to ask you to take your mind off of a witch behind a cauldron and her cackling just with like the big old wooden spoon, like in Hocus Pocus. I'm going to ask you to take that visual away, and I'm going to ask you to think about somebody making a pot of tea, making a simmer pot just to have on the stove so it's releasing aromas through the home, releasing that essence through the home, or them drinking their cup of tea or cup of coffee. That is more along the lines of potion craft than the Hollywood smoke and mirrors and cackling witches with long noses and warts. So, potions are all going to come for intention. Okay? It doesn't necessarily matter what your intention is. Like, you could probably find a potion for it. I can almost guarantee it. Be it positive or negative, it doesn't really matter because there is something that you can do. I would say, of course, there is a difference between consumable and non consumable. And here we go slightly into herbs as well because the herbs are what creates the potion, right? So, in the herbs, in these plants, seeds, spices, each of them has their own association, right? Let's take a look at pumpkin spice, right? Everyone loves a good pumpkin spice latte. Doesn't necessarily have to be from Starbucks or anything like that, but what are the main components in pumpkin spice? We've got cinnamon, we've got nutmeg, we've got ginger, and we've got clove. The four of those together create a blessing, in my opinion. And just like when grandma is laying out the homemade pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving, that's a blessing. She is blessing the family with the intention behind it. That's also one of the reasons why grandma's cooking hits a spot that nothing else can. So, cinnamon. Cinnamon is success and protection. And I find whenever cinnamon is used, not just in the powdered form, but essential oil and things of that nature, it has a quickening effect. Makes things happen faster, makes the blood run faster, kind of thing. Nutmeg. Nutmeg is for money and health and luck. So if you're needing a little extra luck, nutmeg would be the thing to kind of sprinkle in your working. Be like, okay, we need a little extra because I'm gonna need some extra hands to help this thing out to make sure that it is a success. Ginger. Ginger is a powerhouse. It's like a battery unto itself. But it's also for success and power overall. So it's the get up and go behind it. It's the spark. It's the spark and continuous flame all at the same time. And clove. Clove is by far my favorite out of here. So clove is exorcism and protection. I actually use clove in a really it's like a floor cleaning solution that I create myself because it's scrubbing my space and cleaning my space and it smells good, but it's also getting rid of negative energy and everything that can just kind of collect and make it nasty. Cause I don't know about you. I don't care for my space being nasty. I don't care for that at all. And even better, clove also repels bugs, which is great. But even more than that, these are also medicinal in a sense. I mean, cinnamon genuinely gets the blood to run faster. It gets things going. It's good for you. Nutmeg now. Nutmeg is one of those that's a little controversial because it's slightly hallucinogenic. Okay. So be very sparing with it. You don't need a lot. And I know I say hallucinogenic, and some people are like, oh, I can go get a thing of nutmeg. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. That's just dumb. Ginger. We all know that ginger helps with the stomach, right? Eases a stomach, helps promote digestive well-being. We know that. And clove. Clove has been used for thousands upon thousands of years as a way to help with a toothache. You got a rotten tooth in there, you chew on some clove. It helps with the pain, but it's also antibacterial, and it's going to help prevent, that tooth from rotting further. So while they have these associations outwardly, they also have associations medicinally. And that's kind of what I want to focus on. Because with these, it's not just about, oh, I have this specific intention. It is a well-balanced, holistic look at it, I guess. But that's just me. You could definitely go specifically by intention, but just make sure that your herbs play well together. Because, of course, if you're going to have something on the sweeter side and then you're adding in like oregano because of whatever properties it holds, that might taste a little funny. It might smell a little funny too. So just make sure it plays well together, because not everything's going to play well together. It's just like, different people. You're not going to like everybody. Not all herbs are going to like all other herbs. So we have that in the consumable or in the simmer pots, where you're literally sticking like a cinnamon stick, orange peels, things of that nature into a pot of water and allowing it to boil, cloves. And you're pretty much like boiling a tea on the stove, but it's not for consumption. It is just for almost making an incense in the home. And those simmer pots, they're effective. They're incredibly effective at creating that atmosphere that you want. Just like we spoke about in glamour magic, where we're creating an atmosphere. That helps create the atmosphere to draw in what you want. Now, on the side of negative, this is where it gets a little gross. Because, yes, there are negative potions. There are negative things that we can do. There are harmful, baneful workings. I'm sure everyone's heard of war water, where they get a bunch of nasty stuff like into swamp water. They'll put like nails and glass and things of that nature and shout horrible things at this water. And it becomes a potion over time because it is soaking in all of that negative intention. And when it is used on somebody, it unleashes hell. It's called war water for a reason. Or just using storm water on somebody. Or I've seen a lot of workings where a witch will literally be pissing into it. Or shitting, dependent on the witch. And I'm just like, oh, I would not. Because that is my bodily fluid, and I am not going to attach that to somebody else. And that is gross. But think about all of the gross things. Mold, decay, rot, feces, pee. And there you have some of the makings of a more negative based thing. Now, if you use some extra herbs with it, think garlic, because garlic, much like cloves, is good for exorcism. Then that is pointing the way of like, this is a get the fuck away from me kind of thing. In the worst way possible. Now, I wouldn't suggest, of course, unloading like that on somebody without incredibly just cause. But there is ways to do it. Any kind of your spicy peppers like habaneros or fuck, even if you want to go like ghost pepper or the Carolina Reapers, like, ooh. Even the thought of that, like my skin is crawling. But the intention behind it is clear of anytime you come near me, you are going to hurt, so you better get the fuck away from me. Um, the only time I would ever put anything like that in place is like if a restraining order is not enough. And that is just my own personal association with that. But they can really be used for any intention. Like we have love, right? How about apples and sugars and honey and things of that nature? Making a mead. Congratulations. You made a potion. Look at your ingredients. When you make it yourself, it's a lot more potent because you're able to pour your intention into it throughout the entire process versus buying something that's processed by somebody else and you don't know what their thought process or their intention was throughout the whole thing. But that's what this is for. A lot of it is to drink, a lot of it is to consume. I would even consider a lot of food that you prepare. Pay attention to the spices that you use. Speak to your spices. Like I'm very much into like kitchen witchery and like let's bake a wellness bread or let's make a wellness meal where it's we feel good and the magical components inside of it are also benefiting us on both sides, both the spiritual and the physical. I would consider those potions, but that is my own personal association. You don't necessarily have to take that same mental view of it. That might be oversimplification on my part. But very simple process. I have a couple of recommendations in terms of books. They're all by the same author. I I love his encyclopedias. The Scott Cunningham. So I've got his Magical Herbalism, his Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, and then Wicca in the Kitchen. Even though I'm not necessarily Wiccan, I don't follow that path. I don't follow an organized religion whatsoever. I find his stuff well read and well put together. So you don't necessarily have to hold that same belief to read it because he's not like forcing it on you. Now, I will say any of the darker intentions he doesn't have in there, which I don't mind personally because that's not my wheelhouse. That's not what I want to do. But if you're looking for like I'm gonna hex the fuck out of that person, it's not gonna be in there. So don't bother. Um, but I love how well read he very much is, and it just allows me to have an encyclopedia where I don't necessarily have to hold all of that mental space for everything all the time. I could just pick up the book and be like, okay, I trust this. I know this. This is good. But that's really the overall for potions. Very simple, very straightforward. Just get in the kitchen and experiment and get to know the herbs that you've got and expand your spice cabinet, because being a witch is not about just having, vials upon vials upon vials of random stuff. It's also digging into the kitchen cabinet and figuring out like, oh, hey, I've got some ginger root back here that I need to use, and getting it to use. But this is Devi with the Open Sorcery, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. See y'all later.